Hello viewers, this is Uma Lavanya from Nature Academy. In this video lecture we are going to discuss about the basics of electrostatics in electromagnetic theory. So let us start now. Mechanics tells us how a system will behave when subjected to a given force. Here we need to discuss about the what are the available forces in the universe. There are four basic forces presently known to physics. The list goes in the order of decreasing strength as follows. First one is the strong forces, second one is the electromagnetic forces, weak forces is the third one, and gravitational forces is the fourth one. So among these four forces, strong force is the strongest one and the gravitational force is the weakest one. Strong force this one is the strongest one and the gravitational force is the weakest one. Strong and weak forces are of short range and can be found in the nucleus. Electromagnetic and gravitational forces are of long range. This list may surprise you. Where is the friction? Where is the normal force? Where are the chemical forces? Where is the contact force? The answer is that all these forces are of electromagnetic. Indeed, we can say that we live in an electromagnetic world. Most of the forces we experience in everyday life are electromagnetic in origin, with the exception of gravity. The strong forces which hold protons and neutrons together in the atomic nucleus have extremely of short range, so we do not feel them, but the fact is they are 100 times more powerful than the electromagnetic forces. The weak forces which account for certain kinds of radioactive decays, they are not only of short range, they are far weaker than electromagnetic ones. As for gravity, it is so feeble, that means it is very small compared to all other forces, that it is only by virtue of huge mass concentrations like the earth and the sun that we never notice it at all. As we have four forces at presently known to physics, and we will have four kinds of interactions. So at present it is known that various phenomena in nature are based on these four fundamental interactions among elementary particles. Each type of interaction is associated with a certain characteristic of a particle. For example, the gravitational interaction depends on the mass of the particles, whereas the electromagnetic interaction is determined by the electric charges. So here we need to discuss what is the charge. We will see now what is the electric charge. It is one of the basic characteristic of a particle. It has some fundamental properties. We will see now what are those fundamental properties of electric charge. The first one is charge comes in two varieties or two variances, and like we can say that electric charge exists in two types or two forms. The species are two types. The species of electric charge is two types. We call one is plus and the other is minus, because their effects tend to cancel each other. Like charges repel each other and the opposite charges attract each other. If we have positive charge and negative charge at the same point, electrically the system is neutral. It behaves like it has none of the positive and negative charges. There is a question for you here. What happens if there are more different species of charge than two? Give me your answer in the comment section. The next property is the charge is conserved. That means the charge cannot be created and cannot be destroyed. And what there is now, it has always been there. So that the total charge of the universe is fixed for all the time. The next property is charge is quantized. This can be understood with an example. Suppose if we buy a chocolate, the weight of this chocolate is supposed to be 96.56 grams, but by another chocolate we get another 96.56 grams, and by another one we get another 96.56 grams. Buy a packet of chocolates, and suppose if this packet contains 45 chocolates in number, then we get 45 multiplied by 96.56 grams of chocolate in total. So in the similar way, the charge is available only in the amount of like 1.6 multiplied by 10 raised to minus 19 coulombs. Here C is coulomb and the electric charge is measured in the units of coulombs. And this is the minimum amount of charge, and this can be represented by lowercase e. So E is equal to 1.6 multiplied by 10 raised to minus 19 coulombs. If we have some charge like Q, that will be equal to N multiplied by E. So here charge is quantized means this N tells how the charge is quantized. This N is like 1e, 2e or 100e, something like that. This N will be equal to 1, 2 or and so on, some number. Here the charge comes only in discrete lumps, integer multiples of the basic unit of charge. This is the basic unit of charge. So the fundamental unit of charge is extremely small. We can see that 10 raised to minus 19 means it is very small. So since it is extremely small, for practical purposes we almost neglect this quantization. So we will ignore this. We can see this by an example. Consider water. It consists of discrete molecules, right? If we are dealing with reasonably large quantities of it, we can treat it as a continuous fluid. These are the basic properties of charge. That is, charge comes in two varieties, plus and minus. Charge is conserved and charge is quantized. Now we'll see what is the source charge and the test charge. Basically both are same. Suppose we have a charge and the location of this charge is known, that means we know where it lies. Since the charge produces some field, the surroundings of this charge is not empty. We are considering this field, and hence this charge can be denoted as source charge. Take another small charge. For testing, we are going to study the trajectory of this second charge in the influence of the electromagnetic field produced by the source charge. This is called as test charge. Basically both the source charge and the test charges are in motion. We consider the source charge as stationary. We can explain this with the help of Sun and Earth. We consider the Sun as a stationary point to estimate the trajectory of our Earth. In fact, the Sun is also moving in the galaxy, right? Here the trajectory of the test charge has to be calculated. How can we do this? Suppose let us consider a bunch of charges and consider these charges as source charges and a single charge as test charge. And all these source charges will have the surroundings of the source charges will be filled with electric fields, some field lines. We will see what is the electric field and field lines in the coming video lectures. Now we have to calculate the trajectory of this Q. Then only our job will be done. So how to do it? This can be done by using the superposition principle. Suppose we have four charges and these charges are source charges, and a single charge we call it as test charge. So in the field produced by these source charges, the charge Q is going to be studied. So how the trajectory of this Q will be, we don't know. For this we have to calculate the force individual forces. Like we have four individual charges in the source charges system. So the first one, the force produced by the first one will be F1 bar, and by the second one will be the F2 bar, and the third one will be the F3 bar, and the fourth one will be the F4 bar. So on this charge we will have four forces, and then we will consider the resultant force of these four forces. This is the superposition principle. Here we have to take the vector addition of these forces. So this is called as the superposition principle. Suppose we have n number of charges and a single test charge. So here we can add all the forces together. So how can we calculate this Coulomb force? This is the Coulomb force, right? So this is between the two charges, and how to calculate this Coulomb force? This can be done by using the Coulomb's law. So if we have two simple charges like q1 and q2 at a distance r, so the distance between them, between these two charges is q1 and q2 is r, then the Coulomb's force is proportional to the product of these two charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between these two charges. If we combine these these two rules, then we get a single rule, that is F is proportional to q1 multiplied by q2 over r square. So if we remove this proportionality constant, F is equal to k into k is multiplied by q1 and q2 over r square. Here the k is this k is the can be, this k is 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught, and here epsilon naught is the permittivity of free space. Here epsilon naught is equal to 8.85418 into 10 power minus 12 Coulomb square per Newton meter square, and the value of 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught is equal to 8.99 multiplied by 10 raised to 9 Newton meter square by Coulomb square. So far we haven't considered any direction of this force. If we also consider this direction of this force, that will be F bar, that can be written like this: 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught multiplied by q1 q2 over r square into r cap. This r cap tells us the direction of the F bar force. So this, since it is r cap, that means it will be in the direction of this one, either this one or this one. We will see in the coming lectures. Coulomb's law. We have seen the Coulomb's law between two charges q1 and q2, and the distance between those q1 and q2 is r. Now there is a electric force, there is a Coulomb force on q2 by q1, that will be in the direction, in this direction. That is F2, we can denote it F21 bar. So in the same way Q1 also experiences a force by Q2, and this will be in the this direction, in the opposite to the first direction. This will be F12 bar. So we can write it, but the magnitude of these two forces will be equal, but when we come to the vectors, it will be opposite vectors. This we have to understand. Now here this we have seen, right? F bar is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 over r square into r cap. This r cap we can write like r cap will be equal to r bar by the magnitude of the r bar. Here this modulus represents the magnitude of the vector, so we can simply write like simple r, like r bar over r. So if we substitute this value here, then we'll get this: F bar is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 over r square and r bar by r. Then entirely we will get 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. This r square and r will become r cube and r bar, right? Suppose we have two charges, and we have also considered the origin, and that one charge q1 is at r1 bar and q2 is at r2 bar. Then the force, difference between the distance between these two charges will be the modulus of r1 bar minus r2 bar. Now the force can be written like this: F bar is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by modulus of r1 bar minus r2 bar cube and r1 bar minus r2 bar. This is the magnitude of the distance between this q1 and q2. The direction This term tells the direction. Suppose if we have a bunch of charges in the similar way, we know that superposition principle, right? So all the source charges, suppose we have n charges, and then there will be an index Ri bar. Here we have R2 bar, or we have only two charges. There is not a problem at all. But here we have a bunch of charges. We can deal this problem by using the superposition principle. Here the summation will come. This means I runs from 1 to n, and for each I means this qi changes, and this ri also changes. This is the distance from the origin. Suppose if we have a charge distribution is continuous, it is not a discrete, it's like distributed on a continuous object, then how to deal such kind of problems? And here this is the test charge we have here q, and how to deal this? The summation what we have seen in the previous superposition rule, this summation will become integral now. It will become like an integral, and this q will become a small amount of q, total q. So here we have seen a small amount of small area or small volume or small line we'll consider, and we'll see what is the distance from the origin from here, and next time we will take this part, and next time we will take this part, next time we will take this part. Like that we will complete all the area or volume of that object. Then we can integral from 0 to the upper limit. Then we will get the total force. This is the way to calculate. And this dq depends on the geometry of the distribution. This is here we have to deal this problem carefully. Here this is the integral variable, right? But here there is no q, and here also there is no q. Here only the length dimensions are there. Here length dimensions are there, but here on the charge variable is charge. How to deal this? So this can be done easily. We will see. But before that, we have to understand continuous charge distribution. There will be three types of continuous charge distribution. The first one is the line charge distribution. That means if we have an object like a wire or copper or aluminum, whatever it is, if we have a wire, the dimension of this line will be 1. It will have only one dimension to length. So that length will be L, and the total charge distributed on this object will be Q. Then the line charge density represented by lambda, that will be equal to total charge by length. Then we'll get the charge density, but this is linear charge density, and lambda will be small dq over dl for small element. If we take a small element, the density will be like this. So then here dq will become lambda multiplied by dl. See here, and then q will be equal to lambda into l. This term is important. In the previous slide, we have seen that in integral there is a dq, right? If the system, if we are dealing with the one-dimensional objects, this dq becomes lambda into dl. Now the integral variable is converted into length. This r. It is now, this is length and r is also length. These two are same, right? So we can easily deal this integral. Now that next one is the surface charge distribution. Suppose the charge is distributed on two-dimensional object. It could be a plane, it could be a disk, or it could be some bigger plane like so it could be square, rectangle, like that. So it will have two dimensions. One will be length and another one will be breadth. And here we have to consider, and the total charge is distributed on this two-dimensional place. Here the small element will be area, hence surface charge density will be sigma is equal to q over area. Then this is the surface charge density, and then sigma will be also equal to dq over dA. We will consider a small element like this, and within this small element the sigma will be equal to dq over dA, and the dq will become now sigma into dA. Here the dq is equal to lambda into dl, but here dq is equal to sigma is multiplied by dA. Here so if we are dealing with the two-dimensional objects, that means charge is distributed on two-dimensional object, then we have to substitute instead of dq we have to, this dq should be replaced by sigma and dA. Then here we will have two terms like or like dl and dB or something like that, length and breadth. So we will do the double integration, then we'll get the total charge, we will get total charge like sigma into A. And the next one is the volume charge distribution. This is the third dimensional, means three dimensional. It will have three dimensions like a cube or cuboid or something, or sphere something like that. So the total charge is distributed on entire volume of this three-dimensional object, and the density will be rho is equal to q over v. Now here, and we will have three dimensions, right? And we'll consider a small element like this, and here the rho will be equal to dq over dv. Here the dq becomes rho multiplied by dv, then q is equal to rho into v. Here when we are dealing with the three-dimensional objects, then instead of dq we substitute rho into dv. Then the integral will be triple integral, like in the triple integral and dx, dy, dz. It should be like this. So, and this is one dimensional, and this is two dimensional, and this is three dimensional. Now another in some books it will be like here we have seen this is rho, this is sigma, and this is lambda, but in some books it will be like rho v, rho s, and rho l, like it is volume density, volume charge density, surface charge density, or linear charge density. Sometimes the representation will be like this. Now here this we know, right? F bar is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q into integral dq by modulus of r bar minus r bar prime whole cube and r bar minus r bar prime. For simplicity, we can write like 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q into dq by just r cube and r bar. This is for the sake of simplicity. And if we substitute instead of this, as we have seen earlier, instead of this dq for a three-dimensional object, this becomes rho into dv. For two-dimensional object, it becomes sigma into dA, and for one-dimensional object, it becomes lambda into dl. We'll see a problem now. Here some amount of charge q is distributed among the 2 points. How should the charge be distributed so that the force between them is maximum? So we are going to solve this question now. Here it is said that it is given that the total charge is q, and it is distributed among 2 points. So we'll take 2 points, and the first point let us say q, and the remaining part will be q minus q, because it is given that total is q, and this we are assuming it will be q, and the distance between them is r. Now what happens? F bar is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q into capital Q minus q by this we know, right? Now for maximum there is a condition. So the condition for maximum force is dF by dq is equal to 0. If it is in the vector notation, bar will come. Then the d over dq of 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught small q into capital Q minus q by r bar cube and r bar is equal to 0. This is the condition. If we solve this equation, we will get like this. See here, and here it will be qq in q minus q square, and this if we differentiate with respect to small q, we will get this equation. From here we can see that small q should be q over 2. That means half of it should be shared between 2 points. Half should be here and half should be here at the distance r, so that the force will be maximum. The next question is, consider 2 point charges q and lambda q located at the points x equal to a and x equal to mu a respectively. Assuming that the sum of the two charges is constant, what is the value of lambda for which the magnitude of the electrostatic force is maximum? This question is asked in the JUST exam 2015. So the multiple choices given here: mu, 1 over mu, and 1 plus mu. We will see by solving this question. We see here only 2 points located at 2 points, so we just one dimensional will be sufficient for us. So let us assume that at x equal to a, one charge is located, and at x equal to mu a, another charge lambda q is located. We have to find out the value of lambda here such that the electrostatic force between these two charges should be maximum. Okay, the force F bar is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q into lambda q by mu a minus a, that is the distance between these two charges, whole square in and x cap. So the total charge is constant. It is given in the question itself, and so q plus lambda q will be, we will assume that capital Q, and lambda q will be q minus q, capital Q minus q, and we substitute this in here. Then the force becomes F bar is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q into q minus lambda by mu minus 1 whole square and a square in x cap. So the condition for maximum is df bar by dq should be equal to 0, and d by dq of the entire force we can write here. By solving this differential equation, we'll get like d by dq of q minus q square is equal to 0. That means q minus 2q is equal to 0. The q should be q over 2. This we have seen earlier, but we need to find out the value of lambda. So here q is equal to q by 2, right? Then substitute this q by 2 value in this equation. Now then, or in this equation or in this equation, anything is okay. So q over 2 plus lambda into q over 2 is equal to q. Then the q get cancels out, it will be cancelled, and 1 plus lambda is equal to 2, and the lambda is equal to 1. So the answer is B. The lambda value is 1. The another question, 2 point charges are separated by a distance d. Find the minimum forces between them. So here we need to find the minimum forces between them. So we don't know how much charges are located by a distance d. So to face the minimum force, we should how much it should be, this charge and this charge. We know that q is equal to ne, right? Plus or minus ne, where n is equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on. So for minimum charge, this should be selected. So this should be 1 and this should be 1. That means this should be 1a and this should be 1a. This plus or minus, it doesn't matter. It represents like either it is attractive or repulsive. It doesn't matter. So if we substitute, f is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught e square by d square, and this e square value we know, right? 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. If we substitute this value here and the value of 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught, then we can easily get the force. The next question is, a charge is placed at the center of the line joining two equal charges q. the system of these charges will be in equilibrium if Q is equal to. So here we have to calculate Q. This question is asked in the Banaras Hindu University MSc exam 2010. So the options are given, multiple choices are given, 4 choices are given. So we will see which one is the right one. So suppose these are the two charges and two equal charges Q and Q. So at the exactly center of these two charges, if the distance between them is a, and at exactly a over 2, a by 2, the small q is placed. Now what we have to see, what we have to find out, which are this, so we have to find out the value of q if it is in the equilibrium. So we have to know what is the condition for equilibrium. We have seen the condition for maximum force, but here it should be in equilibrium. So here if we see, if we just choose this force, this charge, we choose this charge, then what are the forces it is experiencing? One force by Q and another force by capital Q, and this small this Q is at the distance a over 2 and this Q is at the distance a. So the first one by Q, by small q, the force due to this Q will be F1 bar and this Q will be F2 bar. So the F1 is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught Q and into Q by a over 2 whole square. This is the F1, and F2 is the force due to this charge. This distance between this charge and this charge is a. F2 is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught Q square by a square. Now the condition that it should be in equilibrium, this F1 bar and F2 bar should be equal to 0. Now we just add these two forces and you can make it equal to 0. Then we can solve this. 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught Q over a square can be in common in the two terms, so we'll get this term. So 4q plus q is equal to 0, then q is equal to, small q is equal to minus q over 4. This is the answer. So D is the answer. Here you can get a doubt, you will have a doubt, right? Why you should select this one? You can select this one, right? Or this one, right? Anyway, if we select this charge, same thing will repeat, because this charge is at a over 2 distance and this charge will be a. So either you select this one or this one, both will be same. So why we shouldn't choose this one? If we choose this one, we have to calculate this one is in the equilibrium, right? So what will happen if we choose this one and just calculate the charges? Forces, and just calculate the forces, F1 will be the F1 will be due to this charge and F2 will be due to this charge, and both are at the same distance, a over 2 and a over 2, and 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q and q by a by 2 whole square, and the F2 will be the same. Here we can see that F1 and F2 are same, but how can we calculate Q1? How to do this one? So if we do this one is equal to this one, there won't be a proper mathematical equation. So it may not proper way. This is correct only. This F1 is correct and this F2 is also correct. But the mathematically we have to calculate what is Q. Here also Q term is there. Here also Q same terms will be there. So mathematically this way is not correct. So we choose either this one or this one, then proceed. Then we use the equilibrium condition, and then we can calculate Q value easily. So here also we use that condition, but okay. The ratio of repulsive Coulomb's force and the attractive gravitational force between two protons is, and this question was asked in Banaras Hindu University MSc exam 2010 and 2012 too. There are 4 options, 4 multiple choices are given. We are going to calculate this one. This is the Coulomb's force. Fc is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught E square and over R square. And if we look at the gravitational force between two protons, two protons are same, mass will be same, and the distance will be r square, and this r and this r will be same. So we have to, what we have to call the ratio, the ratio we have to calculate. So this is the ratio, right? And it is asked Coulomb's force and the attractive gravitational force. So first we have to take Fc, and in the denominator, it should be in the numerator, and the denominator should be Fg, gravitational force. Just substitute this and this here, then we'll get here, and these are the values. This we can see, and then all these values just substitute here, and Fc over Fg will be like this. And here these since Fc and Fg both are forces, this will be, the ratio will be dimensionless quantity. And if we substitute here and if we calculate, just calculate here, and we will get the answer. Where is this answer? This one is 1 point, this is around this one. So answer is A. So viewers, thank you so much for spending your valuable time. In the next video we'll deal more problems, and we'll proceed with the next concepts of electrostatics. Thank you so much. If you like the video, if you like this lecture, please like and subscribe our Nature Academy channel. Thank you so much. Bye.